we all know that we got tricked again and all the patient items got slipped off. So Brenda, I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to you.
Alright.
And if you want to use pens, and let me give you a fresh piece of paper.
Alright, I'm going to put two things up here. First, cannabis, of course, is a plant. This is a flower pot right there. This is a plant. Put some leaves on it. Everyone knows that a plant has got to grow somewhere, right? Then down here, this would be the patients, right? So the laws we have today say that patients can grow cannabis collectively or otherwise and consume it for our conditions. Over the course of a few years, there's been a lot of different ways patients have been accessing medicine. Some folks grow it themselves and they consume it. Some folks have friends grow it and patients consume it. A lot of focus, the most focus on patient provision though has been people who sell it. We call that an MCD, medical cannabis dispensary. I call it a middleman. What MCDs do is they provide an easy place where patients can go on a consistent basis to always get their medicine. Most patients use MCDs because it's the most convenient and established. They're the most convenient and most established because there's the most money in MCDs to advocate for MCDs' interests. They're a necessary part of the community. What's happened by focusing on MCDs is that we've neglected any other paths of getting the plant to the patient. And sometimes we've actively experienced advocacy against other routes of plant to patient.
Right.
What's happening right now is the federal government has a very real method for closing down every MCD in San Francisco and everywhere else in the state. They've experimented in different ways and means, and they've come to a very productive one. Namely, they go towards the MCD's bank and say, hey bank, you're laundering money for a drug provision industry. If you continue to do so, we'll charge you with money laundering. They've gone to dispensary landlords. And they've said, hey, you're providing a place for the sale of drugs. And in doing so, you're profiting from that. So they've sent out the landlord letters, I'm sure you've heard about, saying, hey,
the actual language used cartel, by the way.
We'll charge you with the crime of your tenant and we'll seize your property as well as all the rents that they've paid to you over the years. Very effective. No landlord in their right mind would rent to an MCD when they risk losing not only that property but also all the income that they made from that. So
and other properties.
Yeah, so it's a very realistic expectation that in the very near future, all the MCDs in San Francisco, which is all I'm really concerned about because I'm in San Francisco, they'll be closed. So what I'm concerned about is how do we still get the cannabis to patients once the MCDs are closed? The current conversations and the task force meeting and the United campaign.
Which anybody here on the United campaign?
No. So I'm not too familiar with it.
Maybe that's not so inclusive.
But what I do recognize is that it's not so much patients organizing trying to get their cannabis as much as industry businesses trying to remain in business and to keep their capability to sell cannabis to patients. I'm not too concerned about MCDs. They have their own lobbyists, they have their own money, and they're working real hard at protecting their interests. What I'm concerned about, because hey, they are handling their own business. I'm not coming against MCDs, I'm just saying, hey,
handle your own business.
They got their own business. What I'm concerned about is, hey, how do us patients access the plant that needs to be grown somewhere? Except that we're still at risk. We have the risk of going to the park, we have the risk of getting robbed, we have the risk of getting substandard cannabis.
Mr. Goldman said, we also don't know the actual medicinal quality. Like, we don't actually know if it has mold. If, you know what I mean? And one thing I find that I support in the commercial industry is knowing that it's medical grade.
Very important as patients. So we have a few risks if we just rely upon the existing standard that we're going for. There are a couple other ways patients have gotten cannabis. Namely, some patients will give up doctor's notes. A grower will grow it. At the end of the season, they may take down some cannabis from the harvest.
I love it. They may.
Oftentimes those things fall through, and more often than not, it's less than what you're expecting and not really what you need. There are collective gardens where folks pitch in and grow. There are compassion group where folks can go and get their needs attended to as far as medicine. But what I wanted to do is open up the conversation, because the MCDs are not going to be around. And when the business owners who are in charge of the MCDs lose the ability to sell cannabis to patients, they're not going to be providing any more cannabis to patients. Their business has closed. And since most collective or medical cannabis dispensaries are just business entities, then once the business closes, so does the transfer of cannabis to patients. So I'm not really full of ideas on what we should do about it. I personally have been involved in a collective gardening where patients pitch in and grow their own. We've been limited by the 9 patient or less thing.
I heard, am I correct that you had some law enforcement harassment via that whole thing?
You know, we had the gardening raided a couple of times, and we passed every garden inspection, mostly because we're fully compliant all the time and fully aware of what we're allowed to do. The flack we got was from dispensary operators. Like you mentioned before, you've never heard of someone advocating. Well, no one in the patient community who's not connected to a MCD has ever complained about people pitching in and growing cannabis in the gardens that I've been involved in. It's always come from the business folks. So one thing that I came up with the non-dispensing garden addition to Article 33 that I've been pushing for maybe the last year and a half was that there's a certain garden size that's allowable by patients, 9 patients or less. They're limited by plant count. And my proposal is that rather than just let 9 people pitch in on that size garden, we should allow any number of people pitching in on that size garden. We don't all need 24 plants 6 feet tall.
The envelope on having an emergency safe access program ready. I think that there's like several different models we could look at. And our city has already passed Proposition S, which basically allowed for municipal growing, so that the city would provide a space to grow medicine. There was a resolution passed in 2001 that was regarding when we were going through our first cycle of federal crackdown, having the city help patients who are catastrophically ill, which is a legal term, be able to get their medicine, so that if all the clubs closed, the folks that, like me and you and a lot of the people sitting in here have community ties, where we know if all the clubs closed, we know, 1 or 2 growers that would probably say, hey, man, I'll help you out.
Came up with a new model, and now I have a model. So there's another model that we can put on the table, and it actually could be a very beneficial and reliable model. And not only that, it would be actually the people instead of anybody else controlling the medicine. And not only would they be able to grow the amount that they need, they would have excess. So, in the model that I can create for a lot of patients, and I can do it from, the SROs, and that's really what I want to do. I want to flood it. I want to just really let patients have their way and be able to grow strands that they like. Not stuff that somebody wants to sell them. They can start picking and they can say, well, I like that one, and they can have more of that, or they can have different kinds if they like different kinds every day, like I do. So I don't know. I created a model to it, and I think that this is good. We should have more models so we can, at least have enough that we can pick from to make sense, because it might come push to shove. It seems like it's all sliding downhill. I see a lot of sad faces. They made their money and now they're going, on vacation. So sad. Very sad faces I see. So that's just where I'm at today. I mean, I got cancer. If I go to prison, I go back to prison, I'm going to die. So, I'm already dying. So what do I care? And what are they going to do to me? They've already knocked me out most of my life. I'm sick of being that guy. You know what? I'm legal beagle right now. They can come over my, I have less than 24 plants. I'm not doing a damn thing wrong. I smoke herbs, so what? You know, I'm a patient. You know, I'm not a damn criminal. And that's why I talk to people like Senator Yeelan Lee, and I walk around with a pot plant. People say, that's crazy, or that's whatever. No, it's not. I'm over it. We need to get rid of the phobia in the public of this pot plant. It's a phobia. It's not even a real thing. It's a phobia. All these people are so scared of marijuana, it's a phobia. It's because what they've been told over and over and over again. And people getting arrested for a marijuana plant. It's wrong.
We're patient advocates. We know we'll find a way to get medicine, but the way I'm kind of approaching it from being the chair of Patient Advocacy Committee attached to a city-appointed task force that I helped create is like my job, who I represent is not just, you know, Access of Love members that I see and know every day, community members that I've known for tens of years. I represent thousands and thousands of patients that are counting, you know, on a representative to stand up and do something. And so, you know, and a lot of the club owners, you know, I've had a club owner come up to me and say in their private meetings they're bashing me. And they think that the federal crackdown's happening because I brought up compassion. I've never heard anything so stupid in my life.
Really?
But if that's the level that some of these entrepreneurs are at, what are they smoking? Exactly. And if that's the level that they're at, that's their problem. But our problem is the thousands of patients that are going to get cut off. And then I just want to remind people briefly of what we opened with today. And for folks that weren't here, I wanted to do that before we adjourn. I want to remind people that the Veterans Letter also got taken off the agenda in an unfair manner. It was not voted on to be tabled. I really hope that folks support the Veterans Committee's letter. I just don't know what to say if you don't. And then I want to